Hi everybody, Patty Hegwood here with Pet Loss Perspectives. Yes, always a mouthful, but worth it. Let me tell you, today I'm so excited. I have Jess Roper here with me, who is, she's my go-to for yoga moves, even though I'm very, very novice. I did wear my pants today, so I can do a little stretching alongside her. But I wanted to welcome you all in. We're going to take a few minutes to get started. We'll let everybody get on here. So good to see you all show up here. Jess, tell us, what is your title at Best Friends?
I am the Sanctuary Operations Support Manager here at Best Friends Animal Sanctuary.
What does that mean?
So I work with all of our departments here at the sanctuary across animal care, visitor experience, community outreach, shelter outreach work, just to make sure that we're all staying on track and meeting our goals and supporting all of our departments in their work.
Holy cow. So that's like, what, 12, 13 departments?
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow, so you have 8 arms and legs.
Exactly. The yoga helps.
Okay. Sometimes you get a little stressed out?
A little bit.
Because there's a lot going on, right? Like last week, we were going to dial in and all of a sudden we had a huge blizzard here, which means sanctuary operations gets down to essential personnel. It means everybody needs to get off the property so we're not slip sliding around on the highway, and make sure all the animals are cared for, right?
Exactly.
So tell me, so I know animals are your passion, and we met a long time ago during Hurricane Harvey rescue efforts. And then that brought you and your husband here to Kanab. You know, you met Best Friends, you wanted to be a part of the organization. Now tell me about the yoga component, and how does that dovetail into the work that you do?
Yeah, that is such a great question. So way back when I was just 20 years old, I was going through a health crisis, both in my body and in my mind. There was a lot going on, and I didn't have a lot of physical ability at that time. I was pretty disabled. And my doctors told me, you should try to be as active as you can. You should try to move your body when you can. And they suggested that I try out yoga, saying this is something that anybody can access. It can be very beginner level. And one person even said, you know, yoga can just be rolling around on the ground. And so that seemed accessible to me at the time. And I just went to a class. Actually, I started on YouTube, believe it or not. I just found a YouTube video. This was back in 2008, and just said, I'm going to try this out, see how it goes. Started taking some classes. And I just realized that, like people told me, you know, it was accessible to any level of person, no matter what kind of body movement you're able to do. Yoga can help you. And over time, I just really deepened my relationship with that practice. And especially as I started getting involved in the animal work and being involved with shelters, especially, you know, I would go to yoga class before going up to the shelter or as I was coming back from the shelter.
Sure.
And that would just really help me release a lot of that stress and a lot of that emotion, and give it a place to go, moving that energy around my body instead of letting it get stuck.
I love that. I mean, that's what this is about, right? I always say we're like disembodied, you know, disembodied heads floating around sometimes. And I don't think that we understand the connection between our minds, our brain, our body, the earth, you know, and how all of that can actually work in our favor. And connecting the breath and the body and the mind is what yoga is all about. Am I right?
Absolutely. That's it. It's a union of mind, body, and spirit.
So I was listening to someone earlier today who was talking about how when emotions come in, we have 90 seconds. 90 seconds, it comes in there and it will hang out in our body. And not that we want to deny our emotions, we definitely want to bring them in, but how do we keep ourselves moving? How do we keep going so that it doesn't get stuck and we don't get, I would say, a level of stagnation? Would that be correct term?
Exactly. And what I always say is try to observe without judgment, you know, and it can be helpful. And you can do this even right now along with me. You know, just close your eyes, maybe lay your hand across your heart, and then just start to notice where you're feeling something in your body. Maybe notice the quality of your breath coming in and out through your nostrils, you know, noticing if maybe the breath is a little ragged, or it's not coming in a smooth way. Notice your heart rate. Is that heart rate smooth and steady, or is your heart beating pretty quickly? And again, without judging what's going on in your body, just notice where you are. And notice if by smoothing out the breath, lengthening the inhale, lengthening the exhale, you can start to just relax into what you're feeling. And maybe again, just start to notice where you're feeling something. And then just let it roll through you. You don't have to grab onto anything, just observe where you are.
So, when we get icky feelings, things that are unpleasant, we tend to want to just push them out, get them away from us. But are we doing ourselves any favors with that?
Not at all. No. Emotions are completely natural. It's the body's response to what we're receiving from
So asking
our
more
thoughts.
questions of ourselves.
Exactly.
Helpful.
And, where does this come from? Observing. Where is this coming from? And allow it to move through you. And recognize that emotions are natural. They're not something that we need to avoid, but they're also not something that we need to follow along and continue with. We can just let them kind of roll through us like a wave. Appreciate that emotion and then let it roll back out to sea.
I love that because, pet loss perspectives, we're talking about not just the mind-body work, but how we process grief and how there are different ways and different perspectives with regard to grief. We've heard from caregivers who've had loss. We've heard from foster moms who've had loss, and certainly you're no stranger to loss. Coming at this from a yoga perspective, how do we wrap our minds around that? Because I know our folks here, you all are here because you love animals and because you want to know about how this mind-body connection helps you with some of that processing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, emotions can really get trapped in our body. And I think anybody that's experienced grief knows what that feels like. Sometimes you have that sense of heaviness
Sure.
in your body. And sometimes when you're feeling heavy, it can be helpful to try to move your energy in the opposite direction of where you're feeling stuck. So one really simple thing that you could do is just lift your arms up and overhead.
Okay.
It's a simple thing, but it can just change the way that your energy is feeling.
It changed my breath.
Exactly. And it's not as easy as you might think, just lifting
How
your
many of
arms
you
up
hold
above
your
head.
breath? I hold my breath all the time. I catch myself holding it up here and not letting my breath go all the way down and just simply, I have to take a breath when I do this. I love that. And here's the thing. I have gone down this rabbit hole of thinking I needed to have the special clothes, the block, wait until I can have a session, wait till it's the end of the week and I can take the time to do it. But quite frankly, that time might not ever come, where you have everything lined up and you don't need that.
Not at all. Not at all. Even just in the morning, taking 2 or 3 minutes to do a little bit of stretching can really impact how your energy is and help you get through your day.
What are some of those stretches? What do they look like? I'm going to get out of the frame so that Jess can show you a couple of those stretches.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, paying attention to sort of what you're feeling and what you need. And if you're feeling that heaviness, if you're feeling like you just can't get out of bed, if you can't move forward, you're feeling that in the pit of your stomach, just moving that energy up, breathing deeply while raising your arms up above your head. For an added challenge, you can interlace your fingers and just press those palms away, drawing the wrists apart from each other and just feeling that energy moving upward. You can lift your gaze up toward the sky and just allow the breath to support that upward motion. And just a little bit of movement like that can make such a difference.
And you can do that at your desk at work.
Exactly. You can do it at your desk at work. You can do it, you can do it lying in bed. You can just reach your arms up. Say, you're having one of those days where you're just feeling stuck. You're like, how am I going to get out of bed today? Just putting your arms up and sending that breath into the upper part of your body can just really give you a shift.
I love that. I know I keep saying I love that because it's my reminder that I can do this anytime, anywhere. And of course, like any other modality, there are opportunities to go deeper, which you do quite frequently. But I think this is also maybe not even, it could be like a triage. If you're hitting a stressful moment where grief hits us at the strangest times in the most unlikely places, and having at least a few grounding mechanisms to help you get to that next step of breathing and connecting. I think that is so important.
Absolutely, yeah. And even if you're sitting in a meeting at work or you're in public in some way and you're not wanting to lift your arms up above your head or something like this, one way that you can ground yourself and just start to get in touch with that sense of grounding and not getting lost in those thoughts and feelings is just to take your thumb and forefinger against one another and just very gently trace a little circle or go up and down. And this can just bring the attention back into the body and just give you this little focal point. And you can do this, just with your hand in your lap. Nobody's even going to notice you're doing anything. And as that stress or feeling of overwhelm comes up, you can just use this as a way to get back in touch with the body. You can bring your focus to the breath, and no one's even going to know that you're doing anything. It's just a way to bring yourself back into your body.
So my go-to when I'm super stressed or I'm hit with a moment of extreme emotion, the distance between my shoulders and my ears gets really short. And I don't even realize it until I bring them down and I go, oh my gosh, how long have I been walking around like this and not breathing? And that to me leads to the next thing of how do you begin to notice those changes in your body, in your joints, in your muscles? How do you've done a few exercises, you're taking those breaths. Now, how do you send them to the areas of your body that need to release?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And, ultimately, that's what the practice of yoga is all about. So, as a yoga teacher myself, I'm going to recommend that folks find a yoga teacher, whether that's a studio in your own community. There's great teachers online. Some studios have online classes. There's free classes on YouTube. So part of that is just a regular practice, learning to get in tune with your body, learning to recognize where you're feeling something.
Sure.
Absolutely. But the more you practice, the more it's just going to be intuitive, where you say, okay, I can feel, that I'm feeling the stress in my shoulders. I'm feeling the stress in my hips. I need to move my body in this way. And so the more you do it, the more natural it's going to become. And a lot of that is just tuning into the breath, having a meditation practice, again, going back to just
listening to yourself.
Exactly. Placing your hand on your
Listen
heart,
to yourself and not saying, no, not right now. This can't be. It's like I can listen to myself and go, okay, what is it I'm experiencing?
Right, exactly. And again, I just come back to the same phrase, observe without judgment. Just close your eyes, go inside, notice what you're feeling. And instead of saying this is good or this is bad, just try to be with what's happening.
So I know this is a kind of shot in the dark here, but are there particular areas of the body that will hold grief?
I feel like hips and shoulders are really where most people are going to hold that tension, and especially hips for a lot of us.
Why so? Hips.
Our hips are just very complicated joints, and as humans, we use our hips in a way that animals don't. Standing upright takes a lot of physical effort, and all the muscles that we have that connect our lower body and our upper body to make that happen. You can just get a lot of tightness in there. I think especially for us ladies, the hips and pelvic region just contain a lot of emotion. So a lot of hip opening exercises and hip flexor exercises can be really helpful just to let that stress go.
Walk us through. Do you have some good releases for the hip flexors that don't bump you out of the frame here?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's one I'm not going to demonstrate right now, but you can look up on the internet or on YouTube. It's called pontoon pose. And you just put a little bit of something under your hips while you're laying down. And if you've got yoga props, you could use like a little block or a bolster, but you could just use a rolled up blanket or even just a pillow off your bed and just put that under your hips and just let the front body start to open up. And you don't have to move at all. You just put that bolster or pillow or block underneath the lower back.
Do you have your knees bent?
It depends. If your lower back is really tight, it can be nice to keep the knees bent and the soles of the feet on the earth.
Okay.
For a bigger opening, if your low back allows it, you can allow those heels to go toward the front of your body, straighten the legs, and just get a really nice front of the body stretch.
I could do that. I get my massage every now and then, and I can tell you the hip flexors, when she begins to poke that is the angriest little demon that I almost jump off of the table. And I think that's due to the hip flexors.
Mm-hmm. They don't get a lot of attention in most of the movement that we do, but they work so hard for us.
I'm taking my hip flexor for granted.
Yep. Another one that you can do just sitting at home, and I think I can show you in this chair, is kind of a butterfly pose. In yoga, we call this bound angle pose. And you just take the soles of the feet together and your hips apart. And I'm in a chair, so we're not going to be able to see it that well. You just kind of press
like
your
a butterfly
knees away from each other, like this. And that's going to give you some nice opening in the outer hips, where again, you can have a lot of attention there. Again, if you're in a yoga class or you're able to do a longer practice, a pose called pigeon pose can be just amazing for the hips.
Cool. What's the pigeon pose?
So you've got your knee bent and your shin out in front of you, and then you just fold over that leg. And it just
okay, so your knees bent on the inside. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
This is really hard to demonstrate.
You
but
do
if
kind of like this. You
okay.
kind of like cross your ankle over your knee. If you're laying down, the leg's going to be behind you. And even just sitting like this, you can do it this way.
You can do this in a chair?
Absolutely. You can just cross your ankle.
I'm not going to try that because y'all will hear a lot of creaky noises.
Just fold forward. And you'll notice that outer hip. And sometimes I like to just imagine whatever negative emotion or stressor is just flying out of the hips when I'm feeling that opening.
So I would have never known that that's where you hold this, can hold a substantial amount of grief, would be the hips and the shoulders. So we've got pontoon pose, look it up. We've got the pigeon pose, look that up. And let's do some shoulder releases.
Yeah, absolutely. And this can really be as simple as just rolling your shoulders in both directions. This can
everybody roll your shoulders. It's a good one.
Both directions. And you might notice if you go the direction that you didn't intuitively go, it might feel a little weird.
I hear a lot of creaking.
Yeah, might have some snap, crackles, and pops in there.
I'm an old gal.
Yep. Another nice one that you can do without even getting out of your chair is just place your fingertips on the tops of your shoulders. And then just kind of swing back and forth a little. And this can just kind of move some energy.
This reminds me of that song. Head and shoulders, knees and toes.
That's what yoga's all about.
I thought it was the hokey pokey.
You can do the hokey pokey in your yoga class, Patty.
I will, for sure. So this is really cool. And this is like easy. So some shoulder shrugs, backward and forward. And then what's this called? The Sergeant.
It just has a name. Just
Sergeant Pepper pose.
Sure.
Okay. It's got my little epaulets. Think about it. Okay. Yeah. Well, I like that. Yeah. So already I'm actually feeling a little more at ease. And I think it's the reminders of stopping, take a breath, take assessment. And then there are things you can do right from your chair. You don't have to have special clothes. Yes, I wore my yoga pants today in homage, but mostly you can do these things. There are, with the finger and thumb rubbing, that is to bring you to the present moment, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, just noticing those tiny ridges on the fingertips, and by putting your attention there, it just helps you get out of those swirling, ruminating thoughts and get you back into your body. Helps remind you that you have a body and that you're not just kind of lost in these feelings of grief, or again, these ruminating circular thoughts that can just kind of take us out of the body and away from, the present moment. And just bringing yourself back. Here I am in the present moment. And you can use little mantras like that, like, I am here in the present moment.
Okay.
Or you can bring your attention to the breath and just say simply, breathing in, I know that I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know that I'm breathing out.
And this isn't, once again, because I want to make sure that we're perfectly clear, this is not to deny your feelings. This is not to defer them, but to actually take a moment, bring them in, acknowledge them, and also incorporate your body in this process. I think a lot of times we live right all up here and we don't realize what that connection looks like.
Exactly. So many people get lost in the head and don't realize, right, that emotions are coming from our body. They're not just coming from thoughts. They're coming from the systems of our body. And so by having that connection between mind and body and breath, we're better able to process these things instead of, again, just kind of flying off into the area of mind where it's easy to get lost.
So let's take that, reverse it. What about when we start getting signals from the body that the mind hasn't recognized yet? Like, whoa, all of a sudden you've got this feeling in the pit of your stomach, or you've got like your body is reacting before you recognize that there's something going on.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. And again, I think just returning to the breath and giving yourself that opportunity to observe what's happening and say, okay, I'm kind of receiving this signal. What does this mean? And again, it can be helpful to close your eyes. Sometimes, again, if I'm kind of not sure what's going on, just kind of lower the chin, close the eyes, and try to go into that internal landscape. And just ask yourself, okay, what's going on? Like, what do I need to acknowledge here?
So say you're in the PetSmart or Petco or animal related type store. And I always use this as an example because it's happened to me before, where you're walking in the aisle, you're, singing your own song, bopping along, and all of a sudden you see your most beloved pet who has just passed away, your animal companion, and their favorite toy. You see their favorite toy, and all of a sudden now you're in a heap on the floor. How do you rescue yourself? I mean, has this happened to you guys? I know it. At some point you get some visual or sense memory, and it just will take you by storm. It will be as though it appeared right out of the blue, and now you feel inconsolable and a little bit panicked.
Yep, absolutely. And I would say just continue to return to the breath. Just that simple act of noticing the breath and maybe using that mantra again, breathing in, I know that I'm breathing in, breathing out, I know that I'm breathing out. It can just give you something to kind of hold on to. And just allow those feelings to wash over you. And again, like the waves, they come and then they go, and you're still there. And so just returning to that breath over and over. Sometimes if I'm feeling really like overwhelmed, I'm feeling that anxiety sort of sense, I feel like I'm really in my head, the thoughts are spiraling. Again, maybe just closing the eyes, lowering the chin. If you're feeling comfortable enough, you could even kind of give yourself a little hug to just draw that energy in toward the center.
I do like the hug. The hug is awesome.
Just give yourself a little hug and draw that energy downward and in, focusing on the breath. And it can just give you a little break. And again, allow you to start processing that instead of letting it overwhelm you.
So there's a whole nother aspect to this, and we're not going to go really deeply into this today because it just occurred to me while we were talking. But I think about the impact of our emotional status and our energetic fields on the animals that are with us, and how we impact their world when we are getting to that space of anxiety and overwhelmedness, that it's actually helpful for not just ourselves, but our immediate energy field. I know it sounds kind of woo-woo, but it's real. It's so real because you see the impact on the animals in your home. And here you are, operations manager over. At any given time at Best Friends, we have 1,600 animals. It's a lot. We do our very best by them. They live in amazing environments. However, especially new animals coming in, this is a big adjustment for some of them. So how do we, help them? Maybe we impart this more with our staff to utilize yoga with you. You ever do yoga with your dog?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the dogs love yoga, absolutely. And that's a great point, Patty. When we are projecting this anxiety and this stress, then, the people around us, the animals around us are going to feel that. And again, it's not that we want to deny what we're feeling or try to control what we're feeling either, right? Because those emotions are natural. Again, they're a natural response to what we experience in this life. But, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, just returning to the breath.
I'm going to have that tattooed on my hand.
Return to the breath.
Return to the breath.
right?
Yeah.
It's just such an easy way to bring yourself back into the present moment. And, you know, a lot of those stress responses are physiological, right? So your heart rate increases.
Yes.
You know, your breath becomes shallow.
Your mouth gets dry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so by just bringing attention to the breath and starting to slow the breath down.
How do you bring your breath
down.
in? Do you have a visual of a string or something that drops?
I don't use a visual. I just use that mantra. As I'm breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. And then just start to notice the quality of the breath. And as you notice it, it can become easier and easier to sort of have control of that breath. And you can think about, can I lengthen the inhale? Can I lengthen the exhale? And maybe even start counting. And maybe you start with a count of 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Is this like box breathing?
Exactly. That's a great way to do it.
I love box breathing. It's utilized by the Navy SEALs. It is a way to get control over your central nervous system, where you're able to, you think of a box, right? You take in that breath of 4, you hold for 4, you exhale for 4, you hold for 4, and it works.
Absolutely.
It works every single time.
Absolutely. And for some people, holding the breath can actually increase stress and anxiety just because they're not used to that.
Right.
Or
you get a little panicky.
You know, exactly. If you're not used to doing that kind of breathing, it can be stressful. So maybe you could do 4 seconds inhale, 2 seconds hold.
Excellent.
You know, or you can skip the hold again if that's something that, you know, brings you panic or brings you stress. But just working on that breath, bringing the attention to the breath, having that count to lengthen and smooth out the breath, you'll start to notice, okay, the heart rate is coming down as I'm spending time with that breath.
Right.
I'm starting to feel less anxiety. And just having that there can be an anchor so that, again, you're still feeling your emotions. You're just letting that wave come and go, but you're not necessarily feeling dragged along with it. You're not letting the anxiety or the stress or the grief completely take over and put you in a sense of paralysis or, you know, having a full-on anxiety attack, but just giving you that internal space.
And it's coherence,
Yeah.
right? It's a level of coherence. Yeah, and that coherence radiates out.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much. Like I just knew this would be a wonderful fit for Pet Loss Perspectives, because we want to explore the mind, body, spirit, all the magic that happens with the love that we share with our animal companions, and how do we not only be better pet parents, but how are we taking care of ourselves, especially when things don't go exactly as planned or the way we would like them to go, and then we're having to work through grieving and loss and sorrow and all the things that go with having to say goodbye. So I am Patty Hegwood. This is Jess Roper, and we are so grateful that you all joined us today. There will be a recording that will be put up that you can share with your family and friends. And we will see you next month when we have Anna McLean from Pause Pathway. Sorry, I got all my P's mixed up. Pause Pathway. And we look forward to seeing you real soon. In the meantime, I want you to take care of yourself. And I want you to remember your breath. The breath, it's the key. It's the string. It's with the orange string that holds us all together, right?
Absolutely.
Any parting words?
Just take care of yourself and always know that your breath is with you all the time. You don't need to prepare. You don't need equipment. You just need to bring your attention in.
Thank you so much, Jess. Y'all take care.